7 years into the marriage, the canary Huo kept said she was bored, turned around and ran off, leaving behind only one sentence. Huo, I've made enough money off you. I don't want you anymore. I stood back coldly, waiting to see how long Huo could endure this time. After all, scenes like this had been playing out endlessly for the past 3 years. But this time he smiled coldly. A pet? You really think I'd care? Until soon after, news of her death in a car crash spread, and the man who had always been cold and indifferent went instantly mad. After Lin Miao died, Huo acted like he had lost his mind, locking himself in his study, refusing to eat or drink. I went and knocked on the door. All I got in response was an icy, "Get lost." I knew he was in a bad mood. I wanted to apologize, but subconsciously I shut my mouth again, finding myself ridiculous. We weren't even divorced yet. He was the one who cheated and changed his heart. Why should I say sorry? I looked at the cold food on the dining table. The soup I had simmered for 5 hours had congealed on the surface, faintly carrying a fishy smell. So I dumped it all into the trash bin. Just like our 20 years of affection, if I didn't throw it away now, it would soon rot and breed maggots. I discussed myself and discussed others. On the 8th day, Huo finally came out of his room. He tidied up, shaved his beard, and returned to his former aloof and unapproachable demeanor. But the look in his eyes grew darker and darker, as if I was the one who caused the death of his beloved. I looked at him quietly, waiting for what he would say next. I knew a storm was coming. We knew each other for many years, and were together for 7, from school uniforms to wedding gowns. I always thought we would keep walking on the same path. But halfway through, someone chose to get off, and I seemed to have no choice but to accept it. And her? Huo voice was cold and hollow, devoid of any emotion. After a long silence, I answered softly, "Buried." Huo face instantly darkened, his eyes fixed on me with intense hatred. "Meng Jingning, who allowed you to bury her? With your dirty hands, you don't even deserve to touch her." He spoke through gritted teeth, each word pronounced with ferocity. I could feel that if I weren't pregnant right now, he would have rushed over and strangled me. But I still overestimated my place in his heart. The next second, he pinned me down on the sofa, his large hand tightening around my neck, squeezing the last bit of air out of my lungs. I felt the world spinning, darkness closing in, my ears gradually losing sound. His tone was maniacal. "Did you really think that just because you're pregnant, I can't do anything to you? A bastard child. You actually think I care? Meow Meow is dead. Don't worry, you and that little bastard in your belly are next." The fear of suffocation made me try to cry for help, but his grip on my throat was so tight, I couldn't make a sound. I understood. Huo really wanted me dead. I don't know how long passed, but the weight on me disappeared, followed by the loud slam of a door. My consciousness slowly returned. I sat dazed on the sofa, picked up my phone, and booked an abortion. Huo and I were childhood sweethearts, but also a business marriage. When we were 3, our parents arranged a betrothal. We got our marriage license before graduating college. Life after marriage was harmonious and happy, perhaps due to the influence of our family backgrounds. Huo was unfazed by everything. He didn't know how to yield, how to love, or how to say sweet words. But after marriage, he would still prepare little surprises for me, making me a cake on my birthday, and then, like magic, pulling out the necklace I had been longing for. Holding me tight, he'd say, "Ning Ning, I'm not heartless. Give me more time, and I'll find a way to love you. Don't lose hope in me, okay?" At times like this, I would always nod firmly and softly tell him we have a lifetime ahead of us. He would also whisper into my ear in the depth of night, when passion stirred, saying those intimate words that made my cheeks flush and heart race. When exactly did it all change? Perhaps it was the day Huo first met Lin Miao. Because we had stayed up too late the night before, I couldn't get up the next day, so he had to go alone to the event I had originally scheduled with someone else. Lin Miao was the assistant of the other party, fresh out of college, exuding an air of shyness. Her timid smile was both harmless and endearing. She didn't know how to play golf, so she boldly asked Huo to teach her, and later smoothly added him as a contact. It took no more than half a month for them to go from acquaintance to a confirmed relationship. Lin Miao also quit her previous job and jumped to work at his company. Huo Wenzhou kept her by his side and began to teach her every detail, as if meticulously cultivating a rose about to bloom. The ridiculous part is, I never even had a chance to confront Lin Miao face to face. Huo Wenzhou kept her well hidden. I tried to investigate but found nothing, and the next day I would face his wrath. Once, I spent a fortune and finally got Lin Miao's personal information, but before I could make a move, a dossier on my father's mistress was placed before me. It wasn't just my father, almost every family member's secrets were there. Huo Wenzhou's warning was clear. If I targeted Lin Miao, my family's affairs would be exposed to the public immediately. That night, I smashed everything in the villa right in front of him. And Huo Wenzhou just sat quietly on the sofa, watching me with indifference, as if I were a madman. The irony is, now he's become a madman too. That night, just as I fell asleep, his assistant called me. "Miss Meng, Mr. Hua is digging up your wife's grave. Please come and talk him out of it." I laughed. Clearly, I was the legal wife Huo Wenzhou married, yet everyone called Lin Miao Madam and referred to me as Miss Meng. Ever since I stood him up after deciding to divorce last time, Huo Wenzhou directly declared on his official blog that Lin Miao is his one and only wife in this life. After that day, I became the complete laughingstock of Beijing. I forced a smile, my neck still faintly aching. For his matters, go to the Hua family. Don't tell me. It's none of my business either. With that, I just hung up the phone. I never expected Huo Wenzhou would stoop to excavating graves and robbing tombs. Ever since he got together with Lin Miao, the number of times we discussed divorce exceeded the number of meals we had, but it never went smoothly. Either I disagreed, or he was called away by Lin Miao for various reasons. The last time was 2 months ago. Huo Wenzhou was willing to give me half of his assets in exchange for a divorce, and I agreed. But the day before getting the certificate, I found out I was pregnant and stood Huo Wenzhou up. Huo Wenzhou blew up my phone that day, and Lin Miao left that very day. After Grandpa Hua found out, he came to talk with him overnight. Huo Wenzhou wouldn't listen to anyone, but he absolutely respected and obeyed Grandpa Hua. The next day, Huo Wenzhou withdrew all the people he had sent out and never searched the world for her like before. We never spoke a word to each other again, and neither of us mentioned the divorce. At that time, I thought even if he didn't care about me, at least he cared about the child. But now it seems that trying to use a child to tie down a man was the most demeaning thing I have ever done. The next day, I went for an abortion. I'm not that noble, and I don't want to be a single mother. I can live without being loved, but my child must be born into a complete family. The surgery was quick. I was discharged and went home that same afternoon. Now that the child is gone, divorce is just a matter of a certificate. Huo Wenzhou hasn't shown up even once during this time. But then again, he's searching the world for his little lover. He simply refuses to believe that Lin Miao is really dead. After 7 years of marriage, my belongings weren't many, but not few either. I called someone to bring a brazier to the courtyard. I burned everything that could be burned and sold all the jewelry and accessories that couldn't be burned. I don't want to take a single thing of mine from this villa, nor leave any trace behind, so I might as well burn it all. When Huo Wenzhou came back, he happened to see me throwing the wedding photo into the fire. I was a bit surprised, since I hadn't seen him for over a month. I thought he had gone to die of a broken heart. Thick smoke filled the air. His eyes were icy cold, and the way he looked at me was like staring at a dead person. He was holding an urn in his arms. As he passed by me, Huo Wenzhou suddenly reached out and shoved me. If the butler hadn't been quick enough to catch me, I would probably be disfigured by now. A chill suddenly shot up from the soles of my feet. Huo Wenzhou had gone mad, using this way to take revenge on me. Huo Wenzhou clicked his tongue, as if a little disappointed. "Clean it up," he said, then turned and went upstairs. A surge of anger rose from the bottom of my heart. Huo Wenzhou had a mistress, I tolerated it. He threatened me with my family. I tolerated it. Lin Miao provoked me time and again. I tolerated it. He got me drunk and forced me to get pregnant. I tolerated it too. Enture. I've endured it for 3 years, and now he's openly trying to kill me. I don't want to endure anymore. Since that's the case, then let everyone die. I quickly caught up, grabbed Huo Wenzhou's arm to make him turn around, and slapped him as hard as I could. His head was knocked to one side, and he stared at me with an extremely cold gaze. Seeing the slap mark on Huo Wenzhou's face, I instantly felt a bit more relieved. "Tomorrow at 9 in the morning, go get the divorce." Lin Miao's death was not my fault. Don't throw all the blame on me. You know very well how I got pregnant. The reason I didn't show up on the day of the divorce was because your mother took me back to the old mansion. And your mistress's burial was also arranged by your mother herself, because she couldn't stand seeing you in that ghostly state. Don't pin all the shit on your father. Faced with my explanation, Huo Wenzhou showed no reaction. I don't care whether he believes it or not. It has nothing to do with me anymore. I made my words very clear and straightforward. The moment I left the Huo family mansion, I carefully thought back. The question Huo Wenzhou asked, "Have you ever tasted the feeling of your beloved dying?" Beloved?
Ha.
What was my answer back then? Oh, I remember now. I said, Huo Wenzhou, you've been dead to me for a long time. When two people are in love, they see no one else. The old me couldn't see Lin Miao. Now Huo Wenzhou can't see me. After so many years of feelings, are you really willing to let go? Lu Ming is a mutual friend of Huo Wenzhou and me. Throughout this 3-year love triangle, all news about Lin Miao came to me through him. Willing? 7 years of love, hate, and obsession. I did fantasize that he would come back to me, but when Lin Miao died, I understood. No matter which side is chosen, it's a loss. I let out a light laugh and flicked the ash from my cigarette. Ever since I found out about Lin Miao, I picked up the habit of smoking. I don't like drinking. And I'm afraid of doing something I'd regret after drinking, so I just smoked to release myself, trying to find some relief for my already numb heart. Seeing that I didn't speak, he continued, Lin Miao is dead. Since you've already tolerated him for 3 years, why not wait a little longer? He'll come back to you sooner or later. Besides, you have a child now. Even if Azhou agrees, the Huo family won't. I don't need their approval. I never told anyone about the abortion. Lu Ming, seeing that he couldn't talk me out of it, grew visibly anxious. He cursed in frustration. Are you stupid? There's no guarantee that Lin Miao is even dead. I frowned. What do you mean? He was silent for a long time, then gritted his teeth and spilled the whole story. Lin Miao wasn't dead. That was something I hadn't expected. She had run off in a fit of anger and gotten into a car accident. Old Master Huo, wanting Huo Wenzhou and me to have a peaceful life, and with me being pregnant, simply spread the word that she was dead and hid her far away to make him give up. But he never expected his grandson to go to such extremes, actually sneaking off to dig up the grave in the dead of night. Huo's mother was left with no choice either. She couldn't just watch her son be heartbroken to death, so she finally relented and had her brought back. Lu Ming sighed. Unwilling to give up, he tried to persuade me again. There's really no need to take it all the way to divorce, Ning Ning. I can see it. He has feelings for you, and now the truth is out. You can have the baby in peace with your family and the Huo family keeping an eye on things. Lin Miao can't cause you any more trouble even if she jumps around. Then what? I reached out and stubbed out the cigarette, asking calmly, already having a general idea in mind. He was taken aback, but seeing my still indifferent expression, he swallowed his other words. Ignoring him, I continued to ask. Then I'd continue to put up with them like before, watching Lin Miao occasionally come bounce around in front of me, and they'd keep playing the same game of cat and mouse as before. When I give birth, my child would have to endure this with me. And one day, when Lin Miao gets bored, she could pull that fake death stunt again, and my child, and I would have to be buried alive with her. I suddenly found it ridiculous. Thinking back to not long ago, he grabbed my neck and called my child a bastard, and then turned around and went mad enough to dig up Lin Miao's grave. He knelt before the old master and took 30 lashes just for news of her, then came back and deliberately pushed me into the fire pit. Having grown up together, I'm not unaware of the rottenness in Huo Wenzhou's bones. The irony is, by then, he already knew about Lin Miao's news, yet he still wouldn't let me go. After years of entanglement, at the root of it all, was it that he never loved me, or that he stopped loving me? On the day of the divorce, Huo Wenzhou didn't show up, and I had the sense not to call, because I knew he was at the hospital with Lin Miao. Though she didn't die, she had multiple fractures and temporary blindness. The two of them were reunited after a short separation, inseparable every moment. Huo Wenzhou even went out of his way to contact the most professional medical team abroad. Such deep devotion, I laughed bitterly to myself. Anyway, the agreement was signed. So I contacted a lawyer and went straight to litigation. No other reason, just speed. I also randomly bought a ticket to the south. I changed my SIM card and deleted all my social media accounts. As I boarded the plane, I looked out at the layers of white clouds outside the window, and in a daze, I remembered our childhood together. Our families had a long-standing friendship, deep and close. Our parents discussed it and simply bought houses next to each other. But my parents loved to have fun, always traveling far and wide. Though they often went separately, I didn't understand back then. I once naively asked Huo, "Why don't your parents play separately? Don't they like it?" At that time I was years old. Huo was years old, already a little adult. He frowned and held back for a long time, then handed me a piece of candy. "From now on, I'll only play with you." I didn't understand back then, so when I grew up, my mind still hadn't caught up, and I asked him again. By then, he had already graduated from university and officially taken over the company. He was so busy every day that he didn't even have time to eat. A week before the end of my sophomore year break, he came back very late that day. Because he was so busy, the entire break, we hardly saw each other at all. That night, I naively asked that question again. Only this time, he didn't give me candy. I remember it very clearly. He took off his coat, held my face in both hands, and there were emotions surging in his eyes that I couldn't read. Because he had been drinking, as soon as he got close, I could smell the pungent smell of alcohol mixed with a faint scent of tobacco. I wanted to pull back, but he held me firmly in his arms, unable to move. His lips pressed against my ear, whispering words that made my face flush and my heart race. "Tonight, it's just the two of us." My mind went blank. Before I could react, his lips were fiercely pressing onto mine. The September evening breeze carried a hint of chill, but it didn't stop the flowers from blooming quietly. The announcement on the plane sounded, and I opened my eyes blankly. I had actually fallen asleep. I couldn't remember how long it had been since I last dreamed of my childhood. As I got off the plane, I again recalled what happened after that night. Huo and I had become official that very night. There was no time for dating because that afternoon he took me to get our marriage certificate, and then he casually informed my parents. I complained that he was too domineering, leaving me no mental preparation at all. He said, "I'll only feel at ease once I've married you home early. There's plenty of time for romance, Ning. Once you graduate, we'll hold the wedding right away." Back then, my heart and eyes were completely immersed in happiness, but I forgot that every order has its reason for existing. We skipped the dating period, so naturally, someone would come along to make up for that time later. After getting off the plane, I couldn't be bothered to run around or transfer, so I just picked a random hotel and slept until the world went dark. I'm usually picky about beds, but this time I fell into a surprisingly deep sleep. I felt like I had slept for an incredibly long time, and through the haze, I heard my phone ring many times. I didn't answer, just let it ring until the battery died, and then I fell back into a deep sleep. When I opened my eyes again, for days had passed, I was fully rested, but I also felt a lingering fear. What if I had died here and no one knew? My phone was full of missed calls and WeChat messages. I skimmed through them casually. I picked a few that looked decent and replied, then called my mom and dad back separately. They had long stopped living together. The reason they hadn't divorced wasn't because of me, it was mainly because the people my parents had on the side didn't want a title. As long as they were happy, they both found divorce too troublesome. After all, life passes quickly, and when the time comes, they'll be buried together anyway. Aside from their love for fun, they were both pretty good. I used to think I could accept a marriage like that too. After all, it was just that love was gone. At least we could still respect each other, and with eyes closed, it would pass. But later I realized that the reason my parents could maintain such a marriage was that love had never existed between them in the first place. Naturally, whatever the other did didn't matter. But with Huo and me, we had once loved. We both knew what it was like to love someone. So, I couldn't accept that kind of marriage, and he couldn't accept Lin Miao's death. After we each hung up, I received 2 transfers. Undeniably, though they didn't love each other, they did their best to give me love. Huo also called me, but I didn't answer. I chose not to see it. We were already divorced. There was nothing to cling to. Lying in the hotel for a few more days, I suddenly realized that I seemed to have nowhere to go. Thank the King of Hell for letting me be reborn into a good family. Thanks to my parents' blessings and Huo's care. I had seen from a young age things that others couldn't access for a long time. Before marriage, whenever there was a break, I dragged my classmates to travel everywhere. The vast Northwest, the Northern Lights in Scandinavia, A dreamy and childish light-chasing journey. Lying in a tent in the wilderness at night, looking up at the few stars hidden in the clouds, back then I dared to think, to chase, to act. Whatever I wanted to do, I'd do it right away. But after marriage, I could only be a Mrs. Hua who wouldn't disgrace Hua Wenzhou. Now I'm free. I've picked up my old hobbies again, carrying a small bag every day and going around to gather inspiration. I stop here and there along the way. Occasionally, when inspiration strikes, I can produce good works. My rebuilt social media account has also accumulated a lot of followers. I also adopted a cat, but I'm terrible at naming, so I simply called it Xiaohua based on its fur color. Every day when I wake up, I see it curled up in my arms, meowing softly at me, which just melts my old mother's heart. But I didn't expect to see Hua Wenzhou again. I was holding Xiaohua and going out for a stroll, and when I opened the door, there he was standing outside. I was surprised for only a moment before understanding. With his far-reaching influence, it was no surprise he could track me down. Inside, we sat facing each other on the sofa, silently waiting for him to state his purpose. Now that things had come to this, seeing Hua Wenzhou again, I was surprisingly calm, no accusations or quarrels. Now he and I aren't even friends. I don't think he came to see me this time to catch up. Xiaohua sensed the tense atmosphere and hid in its cat bed. Hua Wenzhou glanced around. His gaze finally settled on the person across from him. "When are you coming back?" I asked. "Where?" "North City." The air was silent for a moment. Before I could speak, he said, "The old man is very worried about you. Meng Jingning, you're not a child anymore. Running off this far without a word. Have you considered how others feel? Especially since you're pregnant now. Come back with me, have the baby properly. My mother will take care of you." Hua Wenzhou's voice carried a hint of weariness, but his tone was unyielding. A restlessness rose within me. He still doesn't know that I've already had the abortion. Then again, his heart only has Lin Miao. He wouldn't care about my matters. If he had made even a little effort to check, he would know that the bastard he once spoke of no longer exists. If not for the Hua family's pressure, Hua Wenzhou would never have sought me out on his own in this lifetime. I lowered my eyes and sneered, the mockery in them deepening. I had the abortion. Thank Grandpa Hua for his concern. I'll visit him when I have time. You can leave now. As if he hadn't expected me to be so decisive this time, Hua Wenzhou sprang to his feet, his face dark enough to drip ink. Through gritted teeth, he said, "Say that again." The child. Afraid he didn't hear clearly, I softened my tone and repeated myself. I said, "I already had the abortion. Hua Wenzhou, we're already divorced. From now on, please don't bother me." With that, I went straight back to my room. I don't know when Hua Wenzhou left. When I went out, I saw a bank card lying on the coffee table. What was this? Guilt or compensation? After thinking for 3 seconds, I still took it. Who would turn down extra money? I deserved it. I returned to my old carefree life, just me and my cat. There was no trace of Hua Wenzhou or Lin Miao around anymore. Only Lu Ming occasionally contacted me. He would occasionally hint at Hua Wenzhou's recent situation and Lin Miao's matters. For instance, the time Hua Wenzhou came to see me. Neither the Hua family nor Lin Miao knew, for example, that Hua Wenzhou hadn't brought Lin Miao home, but had settled her elsewhere. Another example, Lin Miao threw a huge tantrum, gave Hua Wenzhou the cold shoulder for 3 days, and tried to pull her old trick of disappearing again. Only this time, Hua Wenzhou didn't look for her, and she slunk back on her own. Lu Ming asked me what my plans were from now on. I thought it over seriously and realized I didn't have any plans. Life goes on as usual. The world keeps spinning without anyone. The resentment I once felt had dissipated with the wind, and I just wanted to live my life well from now on. But I never expected old Master Hua to come to my door in person. Mrs. Hua was with him. I recalled how hesitant and evasive Lu Ming had been on the phone last night, and it suddenly dawned on me. Looking at the 2 elderly people sitting across from me on the sofa, I felt both helpless and angry. This was emotional blackmail. No matter what, when I was with the Hua family, old Master Hua and Mrs. Hua had always been kind to me, especially when Lin Miao's accident happened. Old Master Hua went to such lengths to protect my marriage with Hua Wenzhou. For a man of his upright character in the Hua family, it was already quite something. "Ning, come back with Grandpa. I won't force you to stay with him anymore. I've watched you grow up. I'm an old man who doesn't know how much longer I have to live. Just think of it as keeping me company. As for the 2 of you, just decide based on your own feelings." Hearing this, my nose stung a little. Grandpa Hua truly cares for me. He's over 80 now, and his health is nowhere near what it used to be. The matter between Hua Wenzhou and me shouldn't involve anyone else. Mrs. Hua sighed, her eyes fixed on my flat belly, tears glistening in them. Ningning, staying out there on your own, do you have enough money? Have you fully recovered? As she spoke, she handed me a bank card. Take this money. If you don't want to come back, treat yourself to something nice. Everything else is trivial. The most important thing is to get your health back. Your parents are rarely around, and I've watched you grow up since you were little. Now that you and Wenzhou have come to this point, it's ultimately my fault. I refuse their goodwill. As she was leaving, Hua's mother wanted to say more, but in the end, she said nothing. After getting in the car, she called her son. She's doing well now. Since you chose someone else, let her go from now on. The child? Is it really gone? Hua Wenzhou asked softly, recalling the last time he went to see her. He didn't know what was wrong with him. He clearly wanted to know how she was, but as soon as he opened his mouth, his words came out wrong. When he heard she really had the abortion, he felt an inexplicable panic. He didn't know where this feeling came from. After years together, he knew her inside out. She had a tough mouth but a soft heart. No matter how harsh her words were, they were just a way to let off steam, to make him care about her more. So this time, he thought she was just venting her anger. He thought she lied about having the abortion, but unexpectedly, she actually went through with it. I don't want to be bothered by Hua Wenzhou anymore, but I don't know where to go. If he wants to find me, he'll find me no matter where I hide. I know the last time the Hua family came, it was on his orders. I didn't know what was on his mind, habit, or perhaps a trace of reluctance, but none of that mattered to me. Sitting by the window, I pondered for an entire afternoon, still unsure where I should go. Before I turned 5, my days were spent with nannies and bodyguards. After I turned 5, Hua Wenzhou became a constant presence in my life, alongside the nannies and bodyguards. It could be said that he occupied the most important part of my life. But so what? I still have a long life ahead of me. The past is in the past. From now on, Hua Wenzhou will no longer be a part of my life. That's enough. I returned the apartment and booked a flight to Hong Kong. As it happened, my mother was also in Hong Kong. Worried I might do something rash, she insisted on taking me around for quite a while. Along the way, I met her boyfriend. He was a very refined man, yes, refined, completely different from my father. He was naturally caring, making everything comfortable without ever overstepping. Uncle Shen was the longest relationship my mother had ever had. He once brought up marriage, but she refused, and they even broke up over it. Later, my mom managed to placate him, and now they get along quite well. Watching the youthful, radiant smile on her face, I couldn't help but laugh along. So, what if there's no love? There are beautiful sights everywhere in life. But can someone tell me why the people who shouldn't appear keep showing up again and again? A week after arriving in Harbor City, I saw Hua Wenzhou again, and a sudden inexplicable anger rose within me. Recalling everything before, his inexplicable appearances, the Hua family showing up at my door. If I still didn't understand, I'd be a real fool. I lifted my eyelids slightly and said coldly, "What exactly do you want? Do I need to repeat myself? We're already divorced. Hua Wenzhou, can I trouble you, beg you, to never appear before me again? All right? Now, everything is as you wished. The bastard you mentioned is gone, we're divorced. You can safely marry Lin Miao. You can have 100 or 80 kids with her for all I care. I don't understand why you keep appearing in front of me. What do you want?" I blocked him at the door and said a lot about the past, about Lin Miao, about the 3 years that once made my life miserable. Speaking of my lost child, with each thing I said, his face turned a shade paler. By the end, I was relieved, but Hua Wenzhou's face grew paler and paler, his hand pressed against the door frame. He pressed it so hard that veins bulged on his hand. I couldn't close the door, and we just kept staring at each other. At this distance, I could clearly see the plea and pain in his eyes. After a long while, he slowly uttered a sentence. "I'm sorry, I regret it. Ningning, forgive me, okay?" I bluntly said no and immediately closed the door, shutting out all sounds from outside. This apology came too late. I no longer needed Hua Wenzhou. That love triangle back then consumed me for far too long. I don't have the courage to recall it, and I will never look back. After that day, Hua Wenzhou moved into the apartment next door. Whenever I went out sketching or walking Xiaohua, I would see him following not far behind me. not speaking, not coming close. I pretended not to see him. Over time, the landlady and the neighbors downstairs grew curious. They asked me who he was, and I told them the truth. My cheating ex-husband. People muttered, and many advised me, "Your husband is so handsome and rich. It's normal for him to have an affair. As long as he's willing to come home. Just turn a blind eye. Right, it's no big deal. Just have a child. And keep his assets in your hands. That other woman can't overturn the heavens." This world is truly ridiculous. Clearly the man is the one at fault, but no one tells him to change. Instead, everyone advises the woman to swallow her pride. When the landlady heard about it, she took pity on Huo and even halved his rent, telling him, "Such a good wife. You must hold on to her. I'm old but not blind. I can tell that Xiao Meng still has you in her heart. Otherwise, why haven't I seen her go on a single date all this time?" The old lady said seriously. She even patted Huo hand solemnly. I shook my head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Is it that old people love to imagine things? Recently, my mom has been beating around the bush, asking if I plan to remarry. I told her very seriously, "I'm not a garbage recycling station. I don't take trash. I don't want to move again. It's too tiring, and Xiaohua can't handle it either." But the gossip outside made me restless. He seemed to know when I would leave, and every time I opened the door, I would run into him with uncanny precision. When we went downstairs together, I could always see the neighbor across the hall smiling at us. The last time, I couldn't take it anymore. "Huo, don't you want me to forgive you?" This was the first time since he moved in that I had voluntarily greeted him. His hand paused on the door handle, and the look he gave me was full of hope. "Tell me, what do I have to do for you to forgive me? Just say the word, and I can do it." I knew he wasn't bluffing. He really could pull off many things. "Huo, you've done so many things to hurt me. Why do you think, with just a few words, I would forgive you?" His face instantly turned pale and helpless. He wanted to say something, but found that anything he said would be futile. Because he also knew he was a jerk. The things he had done in the past, even if left unspoken, would force their way into his mind every night, impossible to ignore, leaving behind nothing but endless regret. Huo left that night. 3 days later, I received a call from Lu Ming. "Zhou is in trouble. Do you want to come back and see him?" Perhaps it would be the last time I'd see him. After much deliberation, I booked a ticket back to Beijing. As I boarded the plane, I received a text message. Then I turned off my phone. I admit, I'm not a good person. My upbringing taught me that. When you can't swallow that anger, just take a step back. Maybe there'll be a turning point. When I arrived at the hospital, Huo condition had stabilized, but his legs were ruined. He would be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. I said a few words of comfort to Mother Hua and then entered the ward. Huo was covered in tubes, and the ventilator was beeping. The doctor said whether he would wake up depended on fate. I leaned in to look closely at his features, still as handsome as ever. They made my heart flutter. But sadly, there's no going back. That day's conversation was simple. I did nothing but say that Huo should take back all the money he had spent on Lin Miao over the past 3 years. Then I would consider giving him a chance. I don't lack money, and neither does Huo, but Lin Miao does. Her family background was average. Although she was an only child, her parents didn't give her much love. The money spent on her since childhood was pitifully little. When an opportunity allowed her to latch onto Huo, this big tree, she certainly wouldn't let go easily. 3 years, neither short nor long. Her appetite had long been spoiled by Huo. It's easy to go from frugality to luxury, but hard from luxury to frugality. During those 2 months Huo was in Gangcheng, I secretly took photos of him doing things for me every day and sent them to her. The man she once cherished and held dear as a precious jewel, this huge contrast would drive anyone to do crazy things. Especially when the man she loved took the initiative to seek her out again, not because he missed her, but to ask her to pay back the money. That money. She had long spent it all. I roughly calculated the money Huo spent on her during those 3 years. On the surface, it was about 500 million. When people are in extreme situations, especially when they love but cannot obtain, they are very likely to do something they'll regret for life. Sure enough, love unattained, desire unfulfilled. Love unattainable, desire impossible. Lin Miao's aggressive personality led her to deliberately crash her car. After leaving the hospital, I drove to a remote warehouse. After Huo Wenzhou's accident, Lin Miao was immediately taken to the police station. But because of the 3-year romance that had shaken the entire city of Beicheng, and because the Hu family was entirely focused on Huo Wenzhou, no one bothered with her for the time being, thinking the couple was just having another quarrel. So, without much effort, I bailed her out of the police station. I had met the officer in charge a few times. He was one of my father's men. When he saw me, he immediately came forward and said, "Miss Meng, she's inside. How would you like to play with her?" I nodded and walked over to a table filled with tools. I picked up a strangely shaped toy and said, "Use all of these on her. Leave her alive for the police, but do whatever else you want." Got it. In this vast city of Beicheng, all the places and people here were familiar to me. But now I had no reason to stay. I've said it before, I'm not a good person. Lin Miao's 3 years of provocation, Huo Wenzhou's favoritism, and endless ridicule had made me the laughingstock of high society. And then there was the first child I lost because of Lin Miao's provocation. I stayed in the hospital for 3 days, and Huo Wenzhou never once came to see me. That was the first time I learned of her existence. Huo Wenzhou hid it well. For a full 6 months, I had no idea. Before, when I didn't know, he could still deceive me. But after being discovered, he became frank. I still remember that day. When I came home from the hospital, he was sitting on the sofa, holding a priceless piece of jewelry he had won at an auction. I could faintly make out a name carved on it. Miao. He said, "I've fallen in love with someone else. If you don't want a divorce, you can still keep the position of Mrs. Hua." Then his tone shifted. "But don't let me find out that you've done anything to harm her." With that, he left. From beginning to end, he never asked about me. Never asked why I hadn't come home for 3 days. Why my face was so pale, why my body was so weak. At that time, his heart and eyes were full of Lin Miao. Lin Miao was tortured beyond recognition and sent to the police station. With a word from the Hu family, her days inside won't be easy. She should thank me. After all, I am her cautionary tale. The suffering she endured later paled in comparison. I returned to Gangcheng. I continued my life, as usual. Perhaps because I had been away for so long, Xiaohua seemed a bit distant when she saw me and refused to rub against me. I heard that Huo Wenzhou had woken up. Knowing that both his legs were crippled, he remained remarkably calm. He asked only one question. "Where is she?" Lu Ming was momentarily at a loss for words and fell silent for a long time. "She's gone." Lin Miao had just received news that the person had died. Huo Wenzhou said nothing else. With a calm expression, he drove everyone out of the ward. Then he smashed all the instruments. In the end, only muffled, suppressed sobs could be heard from inside through the door. I went out as usual to gather inspiration. Occasionally, I'd think about the vacant house next door. Raising an eyebrow, I decided to move. People can look back, but they shouldn't turn back and go.